There are reports the Pelicans are willing to listen to trade offers for Zion, who after this season has 3 non-guaranteed years remaining on his 5-year, $197 million deal he signed in the summer of 2022.
5 years ago, the New Orleans Pelicans hit the jackpot in the NBA draft lottery, landing Zion Williamson, the guy everyone thought would be the next big thing. Players like him don't come around often, and it felt like the start of something special. Fast forward to this year, and the Pelicans are reportedly looking to trade him. And according to multiple sources, it looks like it's definitely happening. But it's kind of surprising to see how quickly things fell apart for the Pelicans, especially when you think about how perfectly everything began. You see, the summer of 2019 was absolutely huge for the New Orleans Pelicans. They had one mission: draft Zion Williamson. They were so confident they'd win the lottery that they told the Lakers if they got the first pick, they would trade it for Anthony Davis.
In the 2019 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson from Duke University.
And guess what? The Pelicans actually pulled it off. They landed the first pick, while the Lakers ended up with the fourth. Suddenly, everything was falling into place for New Orleans. Not only did they get Zion, the guy everyone was calling the next LeBron James, but they also flipped Anthony Davis for a massive haul: Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and 3 first-round picks. At that moment, it felt like the Pelicans with Zion Williamson were about to become the next big thing.
Can Zion live up to the LeBron hype?
Yes, he can. I'm not saying he's going to be the same kind of player that LeBron is. What I mean in answering that question is that whatever your expectations are from watching him is something that he can continue on the next level.
Fast forward a few years, and things really haven't gone the way anyone expected. Zion's rookie year, the Pelicans finished 13th in the Western Conference. Not exactly the start everyone was hoping for. In his second year, he played 61 games, which was great, but they still only managed to finish 11th. Then came the 2021-22 season, and Zion didn't play a single game. Can you believe it? 0. And somehow, the Pelicans still made the playoffs. But here's where it gets even crazier. Zion made the All-Star team in the 2022-23 season, despite playing just 29 games. I mean, how does that even happen? But even with him in the lineup, the Pelicans only finished 9th in the standings. Then, last season finally gave fans some hope. Zion played 70 games, his most ever, but the Pelicans got swept in the first round of the playoffs. It's so tough to watch if you're a Pelicans fan. How does this keep happening? It honestly feels like they're cursed. Ever since they drafted Zion Williamson, the Pelicans just can't seem to catch a break. For the past few seasons, it's always felt like the Pelicans were on the edge of something great. They had all the ingredients to become serious contenders: talented stars, promising young players, and a fan base ready to believe. But every single year, the same story played out: injuries. And this season, it's been no different. Losing DeJounte Murray early on was a huge blow, and it feels like yet another chapter in the Pelicans saga of what could have been. Right now, things look rough. And sure, maybe this season isn't about championship dreams anymore, but the Pelicans can't afford to sit back and let time slip away. Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and DeJounte Murray are all players in their prime. This is a team built to win now. And yet here we are. On paper, this squad should be dominating. Add in the possibility of a top 5 draft pick, and it feels like they should have everything they need to succeed. But somehow, it just hasn't clicked. Still, there's hope. The Pelicans have some really exciting young players like Trey Murphy III, Herb Jones, Brandon Boston, and Jordan Hawkins. These guys bring energy, potential, and a sense of what the future could look like. But here's the big question. Should the Pelicans lean into this youth movement and focus on rebuilding? Or should they keep pushing to win now with the stars they've got? Now, Zion Williamson has barely played this season, again. In 5 years with the Pelicans, he's only managed to stay healthy for 2 full seasons. And it's not like Zion isn't incredible when he's on the court. The guy is a force of nature. But the Pelicans, they've never been able to fully take advantage of his talent. And now, it looks like they might finally be ready to move on. With the NBA trade deadline right around the corner, guess which team is front and center in the Zion conversation? The Golden State Warriors. Crazy, right? They started the season looking like their usual dominant selves, but now they're struggling. They're sitting at 11th in the West, and everyone knows something has to change. Even Steph Curry seems open to the idea of a shakeup, though he's made it clear he doesn't want any reckless moves.
Trades or desperate moves that deplete the future, like there is a responsibility allowing, keeping the franchise, in a good space and good spot when it comes to where we leave this thing on.
But Zion, adding him to the mix could be the game changer they're looking for.
Whatever it's going to take to win, he didn't care if the player, what type of reputation they had. Look, go get me Dennis Rodman. I'll work with him.
Here's where it gets interesting. The Warriors have always been hesitant to give up their young players, but with the Pelicans reportedly ready to move Zion, this might be their chance to pounce. Word on the street is that the Pelicans and Zion are at a breaking point. He's been injured most of the season, the team is tanking, and they're trying to figure out if they should keep waiting on Zion or cash in while they still can. If the Pelicans do decide to trade him, the Warriors and Bulls are the top suitors. But let's be real, Golden State is in a much better position to make this deal happen. ESPN's Bobby Marks and Tim McMahon are already saying Zion could be a perfect fit for the Warriors. Marks even called him the next superstar they might be looking for.
I've always circled, and we talked about it earlier in the week, Golden State would be certainly that team there for Zion here. And here's why. If you're looking for that next superstar that maybe has that upside, I think Williamson could be that guy if he's healthy.
Talk about big expectations. Golden State has about $40 million in expiring contracts, 3 future first-round picks, and some exciting young talent like Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and Trace Jackson-Davis. That's a pretty enticing package for the Pelicans. Marks even suggested a deal that would send Andrew Wiggins, Brandon Podziemski, and Kevon Looney to New Orleans. He said, if the Warriors don't have to give up too much and they're looking for a potential all-star, this trade could be a great option. Although, it's unlikely that the Warriors would trade Andrew Wiggins, and the Pelicans might not be interested in his contract. But his contract could make a trade easier to work out. Zion could be an amazing fit for the Warriors, but they've got to be sure he's healthy before giving up anything significant. Still, let's be real. The idea of Zion teaming up with Steph Curry is pretty thrilling, right? And it's not just me saying this. Even Kevin O'Connor, one of the sharpest NBA analysts out there, agrees.
Can you imagine a Steph Curry, Zion Williamson two-man game?
I mean, just think about that for a second. Steph's unmatched shooting and playmaking paired with Zion's insane power and athleticism. That's not just basketball, that's pure entertainment. But here's the thing, while it's just an idea for now, a trade between the Warriors and Pelicans actually makes a lot of sense. The Warriors are always on the hunt to get even better, and Zion could be the missing piece to push them into an entirely different stratosphere. Meanwhile, the Pelicans, despite putting so much hope in Zion, haven't had the season they were hoping for. Maybe, just maybe, it's time for them to shake things up and rebuild. O'Connor even hinted that this could finally be Zion's breakout season, if he can stay healthy, of course. And honestly, who wouldn't want to see a healthy, dominant Zion out there, especially with Steph feeding him perfect passes? That duo would be unstoppable, plain and simple. Zion bulldozing through defenses, Steph raining threes from every corner of the court. It's a dream matchup. But wait, there's more. Zion's massive contract has an interesting twist. There's a clause that says he has to stay under a certain weight to unlock 20% of his salary next season. That's no small chunk of change, and it definitely makes any trade talk more complicated. The good news? Zion's on track to hit those targets, which makes him even more valuable for any team eyeing him. Now, there's the elephant in the room, Zion's health.
Zion's played 7 games this year. 7 games!
He's missed a bunch of games this season with a hamstring injury, and the Pelicans might be thinking about their long-term future. Could trading Zion be their best shot at hitting the reset button and starting fresh? It's a question worth asking, and it's why this potential blockbuster deal is turning so many heads. If we're being real, it's tough to trust Zion Williamson to stay healthy for a full season right now. But just imagine this. The Warriors managed to get him healthy for one playoff run. Just one. Can you picture how unstoppable they'd be? The Warriors' offense hasn't been its usual explosive self this season, but Zion could flip the script completely. When he's healthy, he's a monster on the court. Remember that unforgettable 40-point game he dropped against the Lakers in the play-in tournament?
Williamson down the middle, slashing his way to the hole with a chance to tie inside. Zion Williamson! We are tied!
Even with defenses keyed in on him, he dominated. That's exactly the kind of player the Warriors need right now, a game changer who can take over when it matters most. Here's the thing, outside of Steph Curry, no one on the Warriors is averaging more than 17 points per game. Zion? He puts up 24.6 points per game like it's nothing. And he's not just a scorer, he's a great passer, too. Adding Zion would take a huge load off Steph's shoulders and make the Warriors nearly impossible to guard. To pull off this trade, the New Orleans Pelicans might have to include Javonte Green and Daniel Theis. Green is a lockdown defender and a freak athlete, while Theis is a smart, versatile big man who fits the Warriors system perfectly. Both of them could be valuable pieces for the Warriors while helping the deal come together. For the Pelicans, trading Zion might actually make sense. He hasn't quite lived up to the massive contract they gave him. There are still 3 years left on that deal, but only a small part of his salary for next year is guaranteed, which makes him a very appealing trade option for teams like the Warriors. The best part? This trade wouldn't cost the Warriors much in the long run. If Zion didn't pan out, they could move on without giving up too much. They might only need to include a late first-round pick and a couple of players to make the salaries work. It's low risk, but with sky-high potential, just the kind of move the Warriors love. And if the Pelicans play their cards right, losing Zion could actually be their best move yet. I mean, the Pelicans have been stuck with Zion Williamson for 6 years, hoping he'd become the consistent star they believed he could be. But let's face it, it hasn't worked out the way they planned. So maybe it's time to stop waiting and start building a new future. If they do trade Zion, this might be the best deal they could ask for. Kuminga is young, explosive, and one of those players who can drive to the basket like a freight train. Oh, and here's the best part, he's healthy. Since he'll be a restricted free agent this summer, the Pelicans have some great options. They could re-sign him or let him go and free up cap space to bring in other talent. Then there's Peyton II, who adds even more flexibility. His contract is expiring, and pairing him with Theis in a trade would give the Pelicans a ton of financial breathing room. Imagine being one of the few teams that could go after a big-name free agent without needing to pull off some complicated salary cap gymnastics. That's a game changer. Even without Zion, the Pelicans wouldn't be in bad shape for long. They've got draft capital, promising young players, and some solid veterans. Add in the possibility of a high pick in the upcoming draft, and they'd be in a great position to bounce back fast. It feels like they've been setting themselves up for this kind of move all along. For the Warriors, though, getting Zion could completely flip the script. Imagine Steph Curry and Zion Williamson on the same team. Absolute madness. If they could figure out how to complement each other, the Warriors might just find themselves back in championship contention. And let's be real, who wouldn't want to see that duo dominate the playoffs?